Welcome back to Mommy Meltdown on Giant TV. I'm your host, Stephanie Mizzy, and today's show is all about the moms, as we remember our moms, and maybe your mom, and maybe if you're a mom, and if you didn't remember that tomorrow's Mother's Day, I've now given you a hint that tomorrow's Mother's Day, and you better get yourself into a store and remember Mom today. Now, you guys seem to like the first mom panel so much that we thought we would try it again. So joining me today are Trish Haupy. Did I get it right?
You sure did.
Haupy. I got it right the first
like
time.
Like a house.
Like a house. Excellent. And Trish and I have known each other for a couple of years now through our kids. And Victoria O'Hara. Victoria, thanks so much for joining us today. Our first time meeting, actually. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. Both moms of little ones. And on this journey of motherhood, which tends to be a little not so at times.
Bumpy, a little bumpy at times.
A little bumpy is right. So we're going to talk all about that today. Thank you again, ladies, for coming in. I guess we should start at the beginning with some introductions. So Trish, you want to go first?
Sure. My name's Trish. I have 2 kids. My daughter is in grade 2, so she's going to be 8 in the summer. She no longer likes to be referred to as a 7-year-old. Mm-hmm. And my son is 6 and almost done kindergarten.
Wow.
Thank God.
You're on to the next stage.
He's so ready to move on. He's just so ready.
Well, I got a couple more years before
he loves kindergarten, but he's past it. He's just learned it all.
Get to that stage where they can't wait to be in a desk.
Yes.
And then they'll immediately just
regret that.
I think really he wants to be on the same playground with his sister. I think that's really what he wants.
That's a big part of it, isn't it?
That's the big thing.
It's a big part of it. I love it. And Victoria?
I'm Victoria. And I have 2 little boys. I have a newly 3-year-old and check my watch. Oh, as of today, a 10-month-old.
Oh, 10 months. Fun.
A little too close to 1 year for my liking.
It doesn't take long, does it?
No.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this journey that we've started through motherhood. How have you found motherhood up to this point? Is it everything that you thought it was going to be, or is it nothing that you thought it was going to be?
Both. It's both.
Yeah.
It's everything you thought, and then you're like, oh my God, what are we doing today?
My mother was right about everything.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, they tend to be right. Yeah.
Excellent. We're going to talk actually about our moms in just a little bit. So when you talk about things that you weren't expecting, what are some of those things that you weren't really expecting motherhood was going to be like?
I didn't expect my kids to out-eat me at 7. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I really wasn't prepared maybe financially for that whole idea. But
yeah.
So there's that. The things that they ask you, you're like, really? Are we having this conversation?
Do you have answers for everything, though?
I try my darndest to come up with an answer because they'll just keep asking if you don't. Ask Google. Yeah. Yes, that's a popular idea.
Yeah.
But I find with motherhood, like, you can go from such a high to such a low in like 20 minutes, and the difference is like a snack, like right? It's like the snack will make or break your entire day, and it's like
so true,
you never thought a granola bar would like save your life, right? Like, or make you cry. That's it.
It all depends on whether you gave them the honey nut or the plain Cheerios.
Yes.
That could be a deal breaker in my house.
Well, and it's funny, right? Because I mean, my boys are 11 and almost 9. I have the same problem.
Yeah,
he turns 9 in the summer, and it's like you can't call him 8 anymore because he's almost 9.
No.
But I almost forget what the beginning stages were, and you're really in the beginning of all of this with 10 months, 3 years. Do you like having the boys close together in age?
I do. I got lucky that we had planned, or we had hoped to have them 2 years apart because there's 2 years between me and both of my sisters.
Okay.
And there's a little more of an age gap between my husband and his brothers.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly close with my sisters.
Okay.
So we kind of like the idea of having them close together. And we definitely like the idea of getting the diapers out of the way.
Yes, that was always a big contributor
That's the hard
for
fast
us.
rule. Like once the youngest one is out of diapers, like that's it. No more babies.
Exactly.
It's true. It's so true.
I'm not going back to that one.
Recently, my husband actually said to me, maybe we should try again. I was like, are you nuts?
I'm sorry.
What?
Do you remember?
We have like an almost 9-year-old. Are you? No. That's not happening.
Hard no.
Yeah, no, that's a hard no, exactly.
Go visit somebody, honey.
Yeah.
Go to a daycare. Come back and let me know if you want to try this again, okay? It's definitely a different ball of wax, at least I find. And I mean, I don't have the experience of having a girl in the house, but I can tell you, growing up with sisters and having one boy in the house was absolutely not preparing me to have boys. Not
No.
in the least bit. And maybe you're still kind of new in this area where they're not fighting all the time. But I had a couple of moms on just a number of weeks ago, and we talked about how much the two boys tend to fight as they get a little bit older.
Yeah, we're just getting to that phase now. The 10-month-old is now mobile. He's not walking,
Yes.
but he's proficient at crawling, and he's cruising on everything. And he just wants to be on top of his older brother.
Okay.
So he just wants to be right in there doing everything his older brother is. And my oldest son will see his brother coming and scream at the top of his lungs and climb the furniture to try and get away from him. So
I love that the younger one is already dominating
Yes.
at 10 months. It's
yeah,
awesome.
the younger one is quite a bit bigger than the older one. Like, they're 26 months apart and only about 10 pounds difference.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I have that similar problem. I don't think that
So,
ever goes away. At least
No.
it hasn't been in
We
mine.
keep trying to warn the older one that he needs to be nice to his younger brother, because when the younger one gets older, like, he's gonna make up for lost time. Like,
Yes. I'm so glad to know
Yeah.
that we're not the only ones who say that, because there are times that I feel like that was kind of a bad thing to say maybe. But it's true.
That might
It's,
come
it's
back.
now we're seeing that all those things that we've been telling him for all these years, they're starting to come to fruition.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yes.
younger is going to dominate a lot more as they get older.
Yeah.
I ended up being the tallest in my family, and I'm the youngest.
Oh,
so.
really? See,
See, my husband's younger than his brother, and he's much taller than his brother as well.
So tell me about Liv. Does she,
Yeah.
is she motherly with Stan?
Some days, yes. Some days. Other days, she's a parent to Stan. I don't think that was a wise decision, Stan. You maybe shouldn't
really?
have done that. Liv, 10 minutes ago, you did the same thing.
Okay, good. I was going to say, do you correct that, or
So,
you just gotta let it go? Or?
Maybe just leave them alone, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. They're really funny. They're really protective of each other, but
that's sweet.
it's Stan. So if Liv is with a friend and they're having a bit of a disagreement, Stan will get in the middle of it
Yeah.
and like stand in front of his sister and be like, "No, we're done." Like,
Oh, good.
So it will be interesting when they're on the same playground next
Yes,
year
to see how
It's like,
things
Or
go.
when they
This
start
should be
dating.
great. Yeah, that should be fun
the next
as well.
step.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're almost at that territory in our house.
Yeah.
Not almost at the territory, but we're at the territory now where my 11-year-old is now.
There's talk.
Talks a little more, like just the slightest little bit. You know, a girl said something, or a girl was like, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. That's me, right?
Can we go backwards?
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think that's good. You know, okay, we'll talk about that. Yeah, go find your father, actually, and find him and talk about that.
Then ask him.
We talk about struggles, and everybody goes through different struggles. You know, I'm very open with the struggles that my children have suffered with mental health issues over the last number of years. We've been riding that wave. Have you guys had any struggles up to this point? And, like, have they defined you as a mother? Have they defined how you decided to go down this path maybe a little bit that, again, you weren't expecting from the get-go?
Yeah, so with Liv, she actually has a bit of anxiety,
Okay.
but it manifests as perfectionism and like catastrophic thinking. So like something that is really not a big deal is the end of the world.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit different to experience.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as you go through, we actually took her to some therapy. And as you go through it, you're listening and you're like, oh, crap. That's all from me. Oh,
Right.
How much of this have they inherited
And-
from me?
Right? And it's funny because my husband's sitting there doing the same thing. It's like, this poor kid has no hope. But she does. But it's interesting because then you think back and you're like, what did I do at her age then?
Yes.
But
It's kind of eye-opening,
us
isn't
as
it?
8-year-olds
Yeah.
is so different from
a completely
8-year-olds
different
today,
world, right? That they're living
Which
in.
in 10 or 15 years will be the same story, right?
Yeah.
And so that has been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
And trying to get people to understand that with the perfectionism, it's not getting 100% on your report card.
Yeah.
It's that what she has in mind, if she thinks A should happen, then B, and then C, and in reality, C happens, D, E, and then
Yes.
A, B, it's a huge deal. And it's legitimately a big deal to them.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
a hard thing we have found to try and get people to understand especially because her grades are good, her behavior's good. Like, it's
and
only...
a lot of times, from what I hear from, usually my kids didn't act out in school, but then they come home and they blow up at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And that's hard. It's hard to get them diagnosed. It's hard to figure out what to do if something happens in school because nobody knows even to look for it.
Right? And they look at you like, sure, they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your expectations?
Yeah,
like, are you a
complainer.
little too like anal retentive here with what you think your kids should be doing? It's like, no, I promise. Like, I promise that
nobody's
I don't care.
Make this up.
But
Video
right?
evidence, and I will show you.
Yes, and we had to do that with a few people because they just were really like, guys, like, I think you need to relax. Like, I think you just need to relax, and your expectations maybe need to come down.
Yeah.
And it's like, I asked her to practice her dance, and she lost it.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a big argument. That's like, this is something she wants to do. So, no, I'm not making this up. Like, and that's been hard to get people to see that.
It's really why I came up with Mommy Meltdown. Trish is very familiar with some of the things that I have faced, like I say, with my two. And we joke about the fact that a granola bar can make us cry in the bathroom, but the reality of it is that, yes, that does happen.
It for sure
usually
happens.
It starts with the kids having a meltdown, and even at 10 months and 3 years, they can have a meltdown. But you're tired, right? You're probably not getting a whole lot of sleep, and you're up all day, and then you're up most of the night or some of the night, and then that turns to when they get a little bit older, 8, 9, 11, and then different challenges are added to the list. And I thought I would be past the crying in the bathroom stage by like maybe a year.
I don't think you ever do.
I don't think you do.
I hope I always have that as something to
Really? I would like to get away from it.
Well, yeah. Perhaps a healthier outlet.
There you go.
Maybe so. Maybe
I'd be okay with maybe just remembering that that was a stage.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that so many of us do that, right? We just need those.
And don't talk about it.
And don't talk about it.
Right?
Yes.
Because you're not supposed to.
And in this day and age of everything is perfect.
Yes.
Nothing is.
Exactly.
In fact, if anything, you talk about how Liv's perfectionism, and you look back at yourself, and maybe we were a little bit like that, and maybe mom was a little bit like that, or dad was a little bit, but nobody knew to get the help that we know today. And then that makes it even harder because we're trying to get the help, and then also trying to convince the people who maybe see a little bit of themselves in our kids and think, well, we're fine. We turned out just fine. And we didn't have to get on any of those services.
And it's hard. Like, I look back, like, I was lucky enough to grow up on almost 400 acres worth of property. So looking back at that, I'm like, so did I just go and do something? Like, did I, when I was having a problem, when I struggled with something, did I just quite literally walk away to my safe spot? Is that what happened?
Probably.
Like, and asking my mom, she was like, maybe. Maybe that's what, I
would go run to the back hill of my parents' property, and now, like, I am insistent on having a big backyard for my kids for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Like, I live in a subdivision now, but I want to be able to have space so that my kids can get out their anxiety the way I did. We'd just run to the back hill, and before I started crying in the shower, I was crying on the back hill at mom and dad's house. Like,
so did you suffer with a little bit of anxiety as well?
Yeah.
Are you concerned that that's going to, spill over, for lack of a better word, really lack of a better word, to your kids?
Absolutely. Like, when I'm the type of person where I have always wanted to be a mother. Yeah. And I definitely struggled with the idea of my kids inheriting, because it has a genetic component.
Sure,
like, it runs through families.
Absolutely.
And like, that terrifies me, because I think about, like, my parents having to deal with me. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know if I can.
I'm not sure I want to do that.
I tell you, you'll find your way. You'll find your way.
But I definitely worry about that. And my oldest, like, he's sensitive.
Yes.
So, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself.
You're smart to do that. You're smart to do that. Enjoy the moments, what are happening now, and take everything as it comes. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give you, and I don't know if you feel the same way, Trish.
And if you start to feel like, moms always talk about that gut feeling, like, it is absolutely real. Oh, yeah, and when 100%. You feel like something's not, just brush it off, then don't.
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest thing for us, especially with Liv. It was like, no, I don't think this is just growing out of toddler stage anymore. No, like, this doesn't feel like this is something I want her to continue with.
Yeah. Yes.
And it doesn't feel like something I want her to have to deal with when her hormones start hitting.
Yeah.
Like, let's maybe get some tools in place now so that if you learn them young enough, then they just become second habits. You don't even realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
And have it like running to the hill or running out to the backyard or going out to our horses or whatever. That was second nature to go and do that. So when we started to notice some things that really weren't feeling okay anymore, go get help.
Yep.
And if they don't listen, find somebody else.
That's right.
And if they don't listen, find somebody else.
That's the big part of it.
That's the other big part of it.
People who are,
yes.
It's
maybe
definitely
not so
hard
much.
to develop that sense of intuition, like as a new mother.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So, and to learn to trust it too, is definitely challenging. Like I would say like I'm in the thick of that right now.
Yeah.
Just learning to develop my own intuition. Because I was, like, in my family, I was the first to have kids.
Okay.
My sister now has a son as well.
Okay.
But I was the first one sort of in our family. So it was, like, starting from scratch.
Yes.
So, it was,
So you're like,
trying to develop that. And, like, I would ask my mother about things, and she's like, honestly, I don't remember.
And you don't believe them. You don't believe them. You're like, how can you not remember? And then your kid hits like 5 and you're like, oh, they're not lying. You don't remember.
I know.
It's like,
I was looking at pictures from, because my phone had the audacity to give me a reminder of what my children looked like a year ago. And I was looking at that, and I was like, I don't remember that. It's like, if I didn't have these
what were we
photos,
doing that day?
I don't know if I could remember these little pieces from my childhood.
Or Facebook.
I need to write this down.
Facebook memories, like, ching, here you are.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I totally remember that now.
It's funny you should talk about intuition as a new mother. I recently had this discussion with 2 different girls here who don't have children. And both of them, one of them said to me something again that you just said, Victoria, which is, how did you know you wanted to be a mother?
Always.
As
Always.
long as I can remember,
I said the same thing to her.
always wanted to, and I think it's because the women in my family historically were 100% dedicated mothers because they stayed at home full time, which I'm so grateful for that I had that in my mother, and so I just saw that my mother was there for us for everything, and so I've always wanted to be able to do what my mom did, and I find that's part of like tuning into that intuition as well, is learning that it's okay to want to stay at home with my kids.
Yes.
Like, I just need to stop defending the choice to stay home with my kids. And
don't, because you'll defend it forever.
Yeah, which,
like,
I'm getting to a place now where I'm getting a lot more comfortable. But I know as my youngest gets older and certainly into school age, then, I'll have to defend it again. But it's one of those things that we shouldn't have to. Because I want to do what my mother did. And my mother did an amazing job with us. And I don't think I'd be where I'm at now if I didn't have that support that I got from my mother from being at home. And
I think it's amazing. I have to tell you, I say this to all of my stay-at-home mom friends. I feel so bad that women pit each other against each other. The working moms against the moms who stay at home. It drives me crazy because, and in all fairness, I think that many working moms want to stay home. I think many want to. I wish I could stay home. I mean, I remember having that discussion with my husband even up to maybe 2 years ago. I really wish I could stay home. But that just is not in our cards. But the other part of it is, too, is there's another element of it that I think, I don't know if I would be a very good staying home. Like when the kids were little especially, and I'd be like, oh. I was probably more available to them when they were your boys' age, because I worked very early mornings. I'd come home at 10:30. They were just kind of getting going, and so I was more available then.
So they almost didn't notice.
Yeah,
they almost didn't notice that I wasn't there. Yeah, essentially, they really didn't. But as time goes on, you're right. I have friends that once their kids get to those school age, I'm sure you found this too, Trish, that people start to say, well, are you going back to work?
Yeah, are you going back to that now?
I am working.
And I'm like, no.
I love that answer.
Yes.
I love that answer.
I'm building the next generation.
That's right. I'm creating
the hardest
humans.
job
I've
out
created
there.
them and I'm continuing to create them.
Yeah. For sure. And I find too within my circle of like mommy friends, a lot of them are very like career oriented, and in a way I envy them.
Yeah.
But like I see that they are passionate about what they do and they want to get back to work. And I think it's amazing for them and that they can go to work and mother and be everything to everybody and
tough.
balance it all.
Yeah.
Super tough.
But
if you don't have the passion,
yeah.
like if you're just going back to a job, I'm just going back to work. Like you can hear it in their voice. And, I had a really frank conversation with a coworker once. I worked off and on as my kids were little. And they were like, why do you not come to work? I said, here's the deal. Do you know what daycare costs?
Yeah.
I said, do you think I want to come and do this job for $3 an hour?
Yeah.
Not so much.
To make
not
you
so much.
happy too.
But if you loved it, like if you had that passion still, and that's what I said to them. I said, I could see it, but that's not how I feel.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose not to.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's true. That was totally a driving factor for me returning to work. I mean, I returned to work early with both my boys. 2 months early when I think of it now. But I missed being here.
Yeah.
So that was a driving factor for sure.
Yeah. And I enjoyed the work that I did before I had my kids, but when I think about what I would have to give up to go back to
it. Yep.
It doesn't really balance out for me, whether it's like financially, emotionally, like being fulfilled in all those ways.
Emotionally is a huge one.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not something that people think of all the time.
Yes.
Or feel like they have the luxury to.
Yes.
Which it shouldn't be a luxury, right?
Yeah.
Yes. People have said that to me. They're like, "Oh wow, that must be nice."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, sure it is."
I've been guilty of that. I have been guilty of that. Must be nice. And I mean, when those words come out, sometimes you just go, "Oh gosh."
Yeah, you're like, "Why did I say that?"
Yes. I became one of those moms.
And sometimes people don't mean it, and you can tell.
Yeah.
But sometimes they really do, and it's like, okay, like what do you think I do at home?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
What do you think I do all day?
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. I do a lot of stuff around the house that isn't a typical mom role, so that when my husband gets home from work, we can do family stuff and not have to, dad's got to go cut the lawn or dad's got to do this. So that's sort of our balance. That's how we try and do it.
You balance it out, right?
So not everybody is okay doing that, and that's okay. But I don't judge you.
Yeah.
So don't judge me.
Yeah.
We've got Trish and Victoria joining me here on Mommy Meltdown today for Giant TV, and the Mother's Day episode is what I'm calling it. So I think we should talk about our moms for a minute. Victoria, you briefly mentioned this just a moment ago. How many times would you ladies say that you have thought to yourself, God, I wish I listened to my mother more, or man, I'm sounding like my mom. As I get older, that sounding like my mom element is mind-blowing to me.
That moment where you open your mouth and you're like, where did my mother come from?
Mom?
Whoa! It's like, wow, and my mom lives 3 hours away, so it's like, I know she's not here. It's like, wow. Yeah, it happens a lot.
Is there one thing that your mother maybe did or said that you think, I definitely, I need to remember that, or I'm going to apply that now as a mother?
So I laughed. I called my mom before I left to come to the show and said, so they want this like one piece of advice from you. And she laughed on the phone, and I was like, I know, right? Because I call you for everything. And she's like, that's right. But I said, you always give good advice. And she laughed and was like, thanks. I said, you're welcome.
Yeah.
But I think, like, my mom and I have a really close relationship, even though we live far away.
Yeah.
And being able, just knowing that I can call her and be like, oh my God, you will never guess what happened today.
Yes.
And she will either laugh or be like, okay, maybe you need to think about this for a minute. I'll be like, really? Like, I found Stan on top of the table. He wasn't even 2. And I'm like, I went to put the laundry away and he was on the table, Mom. And she's like, so maybe tuck the chairs in, eh?
Like, good idea, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
You don't think about something. Like, that's so simple. Right?
Simple.
But again, going back to that mother intuition, that's not something that you immediately think of.
No.
And then she says it, you're like, that was stupid. Why didn't I think of that?
Why didn't I do that?
Wisdom in hindsight when it comes to parenting.
And I think that's why our moms give the best advice, because they've had so many years to look back and go, hey, this was not a great idea.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, and they can look back and say those were good decisions, or I probably could have did that a little bit
I think
better.
the best thing my mom, and it's actually her sisters that is famous for saying it, is, and this too shall pass. So like, take a deep breath. Today might suck, but tomorrow will be different. Or this season of whatever your kid's going through, it will pass. Now it might be replaced with something equally horrible, but it will be different, and it won't feel the same. So it'll feel different at the very least. So I think that's one of the best ones that that I constantly remember and think of and go, yep, okay, deep breath, relax.
Victoria?
It's funny that you called your mom just before the show. I was messaging my sister and I said, what does mom always tell us? She's a mom as well. And neither of us could really come up with anything like per se that mom, is always repeating. And in reflecting on that, I realized that the reason that my mother isn't that voice in the back of my head telling me how to do everything right is because she is very respectful. Respective's not a word. Mommy brain. She's very respectful of us parenting our kids in our own way.
Yes.
I really value that because, our kids, like you said, are being raised in a different age.
Totally different.
And so my mom is very good for, just giving us the space to figure out how to parent. And, she's an ear to listen when we need to vent or to bounce ideas off of. But the one thing that did sort of come to mind is that, mom always says, it'll get better.
Yeah.
That was something that, when I was struggling with anxiety as a teenager and into adulthood, parenthood, is just, remembering that it does get better. And I believe her because I put her through a lot.
And she's still standing.
And remember that. We're friends now, so I know that,
That's good.
it does pass.
We're friends. That's good. It's good. It's good to be friends with your mom for sure. It's funny because I've noticed, the moments I remember with my mom are things that she says, I don't remember doing that. But
right?
And it makes me realize that as a mother, it's those little moments. The thing I remember, it happened yesterday, and my parents had built a new home, and to get to the new place, you had to go down this really long street in Sydney. And my mother would start at the top of the street and she'd say, "You ready to go?" And then she'd just put the gas on and she'd pretend like she'd be in a race car. And we'd say, "Go faster, Mom." And I think of it now, how insane.
Yeah.
But she doesn't even remember that she says to me, "That's terrible." That was your best memory? I loved
it was great.
I loved it. We all loved it. 4 kids sitting in the car, all under the age of 6.
Cheaper than going to Canada's Wonderland.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
We've even thought of that, right?
For sure.
But I remember her always just having this sense of positivity in the house, singing, being supportive, and I think I always take that away, and I always tell my mom, listen, you did that with 4 kids, I would have lost my mind. I can barely handle the 2 that I have. And if I can be even a quarter of what she was to us, then I would have thought that, I think I've done a pretty good job.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let us talk a little bit about taking that time for ourselves. I don't know if you ladies are successful with this, but we hear it all the time.
Not
Take
often.
time for yourselves. Don't forget about taking time for yourself. And I suck at it.
Mean?
What does that mean?
What are we doing with that?
I always hear 10 minutes. All you have to do is take 10 minutes. And I think, 10 minutes is a long time. I'm exhausted.
Yes.
Are you successful with that? Is there anything, even one little thing that may take 10 minutes that you like to practice every day or every other day?
I like to read romance novels.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very good.
So I tend to take a few moments to do that because I get caught up in the world that's in the book.
Yeah.
So
Nice
if
to be
I don't,
transported.
yes,
Yeah.
like I don't have really favorite TV shows or stuff like that, but I'm like, I need to see where this person goes in this book. Like I need to know,
Yeah.
and that's part of
Who does she choose?
yes, what is going on? I need to know. So I do that, and I like to go to the Painted Turtle and do
Okay.
some work there.
that's nice.
So because I don't have to take my kids,
Yeah.
and then I'm the only one there with no kids, but it's okay.
That's okay.
And like I've done a soap dish and like some other stuff, and I
Nice.
just purposely take forever to do it.
Yeah.
Well, because it's
That-
mind numbing, right?
It
It's just the
is.
same repetitious thing, right?
And then you're
that's-
left with this
sometimes you need that.
beautiful thing afterwards.
Yeah,
and when I
And you
look
have
at
no
it,
idea how it got
and
there.
when I look at it, I go, "Oh yeah,
I did that,
I
right.
took an afternoon and went and
love
did
that.
that. That's great."
Victoria?
For me, I've been practicing yoga for a number of years now.
Okay. Nice.
And it usually takes me a while to get back to it after I have a kid.
Yeah.
But it's something that I do right up until I have my babies.
Good
like
for
I was
you.
still doing yoga at like 38, 39 weeks.
Wow.
Nice.
Which was great. Yeah.
I was doing literally
for
nothing
you.
up to that point,
That's
so good for
probably
you.
why I had such quick labors.
Yes, probably so.
It most likely is.
Absolutely, that was it.
But this time with the second, it's definitely, I'm struggling to get back to it because, again, I feel this sort of pressure to not leave my husband at home with the two kids.
Oh, I leave
yes.
mine all the time.
I'm getting better.
Here you go, honey.
Yeah, to take that time because I'm starting to recognize how important that time is for myself. So going there, and every time I go, I'm laying on my mat in Shavasana and I'm going, why did it take me so long to get here?
Yes,
So
yes.
that's one
You're
thing
smart.
that
It took me a
definitely
long
helps.
time to be comfortable with that, but you're absolutely right. That is it's a tough thing
Yeah.
to let that go. It's just a bit of control, right? I mean,
Yeah.
essentially that's what it is at the
It
end of the
is.
day.
Like, I remember when my first was born, my mom came to stay with us for a week. And I had said to her, I was like, I'm going to Shoppers Drug Mart. She's like, okay.
I think I took a selfie like the
I
first
said-
time I left the house by myself.
I'm going to buy like a chocolate bar, but I'm going to go for 20 minutes. And she's like, okay.
Yeah.
Why is this a big deal?
later.
And I was like, because I'm going to live with you. And she's like, okay. I was like, because I feel like if I don't do this now,
Yeah.
then when she's 2 weeks old or 3 weeks old or 4 weeks old, I'll be like, well, but she's been with me the whole time.
Yeah.
So I should just keep her with me.
Yeah.
And I made a big deal. My mom laughed about it. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, she'll be fine.
You gotta set
down
a
the street.
precedent, though.
And
Yes,
that,
you do.
like,
I
I was
deserve
adamant
my
that I was
time.
like, I gotta go and do this so
Yeah.
that I'll have left the house without her.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Yeah.
come back.
That
And
was
it
me.
does. It's you have to actively do.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
me. The first night I did go back to yoga after having my second. Both of them were just screaming their heads off. Like epic meltdown. And I just looked at my husband and I said, I deserve this. I'm leaving. And I left.
I'll see you later.
That is. That's
He
fantastic.
survived. The
That
kids
is
survived,
fantastic.
so-
Yeah.
Right, they survive, and
Yeah.
that's really what we have to take away from this.
Yes.
Before we wrap things up here, gals, let me ask you if there is a mom listening and watching this today and finds herself in similar situations that you find yourself in, what's the one thing that you would tell her?
Be confident in yourself. So if you're gonna parent differently than somebody else, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just be solid with your choice and don't let them sort of sway. Oh my gosh, should I be doing that? If that's not you, then don't do it.
I like it.
Pardon me. I would say giving yourself some grace. Be
Yes.
kind to yourself. Like you just made another human being. Well, not even necessarily, right?
Yeah.
You just had this human being enter your world. So yeah, just be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people
Yes. Yeah.
because we all have different stories, and just know that you're doing your best and yeah, just be nice to yourself.
And we're all in this together.
Yes.
Yep.
Right? What do we all share? What's the commonality? We're all moms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In one way or another.
We're all finding this journey that we're on the same way.
Yeah. And lean on each other rather than tearing each other down.
Tearing each other down. That's right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Gals, thank you so much. I hope you both have a beautiful Mother's Day.
Thank you
as well.
A relaxing Mother's Day.
Let's try.
I hope so. And I want to thank you as well for tuning in to another Mommy Meltdown on Giant TV. Remember, you can freak out. You just can't stress out because you had a Mommy Meltdown. Till next time.